With the embroidery theme, you can sew beautiful embroideries with your designer too. Place the embroidery unit carrying case with the logo up. Slide the latches away from the handle to open the case. Slide off the accessory tray. Open the cover of the socket at the back of your designer too. Slide the embroidery unit onto the free arm on the machine until it plugs firmly into the socket. Turn on your designer too. Follow the pop-up menu and clear the embroidery unit area. Touch OK to calibrate the machine. Snap on the embroidery foot R. The feed teeth are automatically lowered when the embroidery unit is connected to your designer too. When embroidering with Designer 2, you use embroidery D cards which function the same way as stitch D cards. Slide embroidery D card 101 into the slot on the right side of your machine. Page through the embroidery sampler booklet to see the beautiful embroideries and the Clarendon alphabet. The embroidery designs are pictured actual size. Touch Design 10 on the embroidery D card 101. The design appears as a patterned area within the hoop area on the screen and shows the size and position in the hoop. The hoop size is selected automatically. Touch the question mark symbol. A pop-up menu appears with the recommendations of 40 weight thread on top, 70 weight bobbin thread, stabilizer, universal 80 needle, and thread color recommendation. Use presser foot R. Close the Help menu by touching Close. Use the special embroidery thread when embroidering. The thread creates a glossy appearance that makes beautiful embroideries. The bobbin thread is a fine cotton or synthetic thread in black or white, which reduces buildup on the wrong side of the embroidery. Thread your designer 2 with embroidery thread on top and bobbin thread in the bobbin. The first color is red. On the display, you can find all the information you need to embroider the design. The selected design appears on the screen as a patterned area within the hoop area. Beside it, you see the total number of stitches in the design, the number of the embroidery D card, the selected design number, thread color recommendation, and the number of stitches of that color. Use the embroidery booklet and template to place the embroidery on your fabric. Trace the embroidery design onto the template with the template pencil. You do not need to trace every detail, just the outline of the design. Place the template on the fabric to be embroidered. Use the pictogram pen to mark the fabric in the center and through the horizontal and vertical slots in the template. Loosen the screw on the outer hoop. Place Husqvarna Viking stabilizer and fabric on top of the outer hoop and place the inner hoop on top of the fabric with the tiny arrows toward you, matching the outer hoop arrow. Match the marked lines with the marks on the hoop. Push the inner hoop firmly into the outer hoop. Tighten the screw by hand or with the screw grip, and be sure the fabric is tight in the hoop. Slide the hoop onto the embroidery unit so it locks into place. Touch the Start/Stop button to begin embroidering. Your designer 2 will begin stitching, but stops after a few stitches. A pop-up menu prompts you to cut the top thread tail. Cut the thread, then touch OK to close the pop-up. Touch the Start/Stop button to resume embroidering. Your designer 2 will automatically embroider the first color, in this case, the red ribbon. The sensor foot pressure allows the pressure foot to glide over the fabric, stabilizer, and embroidery. If your top thread breaks or runs out, your designer 2 stops sewing and a pop-up menu prompts you to rethread. Rethread, touch OK and Start/Stop, and trim the thread tail as before to continue sewing. Your Husqvarna Viking Designer 2 embroiders up to 700 stitches per minute. The speed is computer controlled on different stitch types for precision. Beside the color recommendation, there is a stitch counter counting the stitches while embroidering. When a color is stitched, your Husqvarna Viking Designer 2 will stop sewing, the top thread will be cut automatically by the selective thread cutter, and a pop-up menu prompts you to change thread color. Thread the top with the second color, green. Touch OK. Touch Start/Stop. If your bobbin thread runs out, your designer 2 stops sewing and a pop-up menu prompts you to wind and replace the bobbin. To remove the bobbin, touch the Stitch Restart button. The hoop moves out of the way. Raise the hoop slightly to remove the bobbin, wind a new bobbin, and replace the bobbin. Touch Stitch Restart to bring the embroidery hoop back to the exact embroidery position. Close the pop-up. Step back a few stitches by touching the Stitch Minus button on the embroidery D card. Touch Start Stop to continue the embroidery. When your designer 2 has completed the embroidery, the selective thread cutter cuts both top and bobbin thread, and the needle and presser foot are raised to the highest position for easy removal of the hoop. Press the gray button on the hoop clamp to release the hoop. Snip the jump threads and enjoy the embroidery. See the beautiful dress where the embroideries have been mirror imaged and combined in a zigzag pattern. This wonderful beetle is also included in your embroidery sampler booklet. All embroideries can easily be sewn in one color only. Select Design 16, the little beetle. To remove the color stop, touch the stop button and the light goes out. Touch Start Stop and the embroidery is sewn in one color without any stops for color changing. Touch Design 18, the small cat on the embroidery D card. The screen displays information about the design, total number of stitches, embroidery D card 101, Design 18, number of stitches of the first color, the stitch counter, the height and width of the design. You can select different hoop sizes. Touch the Hoop tab. The optional mini hoop size is not available because this design is too large for that hoop. Touch the standard designer hoop. The pattern square in the hoop indicates the size and placement of the cat in the hoop. On the embroidered D card, step through the design stitch by stitch, forward with the plus or backward with the minus. Step through the design color by color, forward with the plus or backward with the minus. Check the size and placement of the design with the Check Size button on the Embroidery D card. Move the starting position of the design with the 4 positioning arrows. See the placement of the design as a patterned area in the hoop on the screen. Move the design to the left. The adjustments to the left in millimeters is visible on the screen. Move the design to the right. See the adjustments on the screen. Move the design upwards and downwards to see the adjustments on the screen. Touch the rotation button to rotate the design. Touch the side-to-side mirror image button. Adjust the size of the design up to 20% larger or smaller with the plus and minus height and width buttons. You can sew thin cats and thick cats. You can sew a variety of cats with the options in the Adjust menu. Touch Design 19. This design will sew in the upper left corner of the hoop. Touch the question mark button to bring up the Help menu for recommendations on thread, needles, and stabilizer. Touch Close. Touch Start Stop to sew Design 19 in the upper left corner of the standard hoop. Trim threads as prompted by the pop-up menu. Sew the beautiful design. Touch the Rotate button on the screen. The button is black when the design is rotated, and the E is rotated as the design is sewn. Touch it one time to sew the design in the upper right corner of the hoop. Touch Rotate again to sew the design in the lower right corner of the hoop. Touch Rotate once again to sew the design in the lower left corner. This beautiful four-way design can be sewn many different ways. There are several designs specially for quilting. Touch design number 25. Hoop batting and stabilizer with the fabric in the standard hoop. Touch Start Stop to embroider. Trim the threads as prompted. Create beautiful quilts with your Husqvarna Viking Designer 2. Place Husqvarna Viking Dissolve Away underneath fabric and hoop all layers. Touch design number 4, the Cutwork design. Thread your Designer 2 with white embroidery thread. Slide the hoop on the embroidery unit. Touch Fix. Touch Start Stop. An outline is basted around the embroidery area. This is helpful when embroidering on flimsy fabric that should not be hooped too tightly. It also indicates the placement of the design. Touch Start Stop and a straight stitch outline around the cutwork is stitched. When Designer 2 has stopped sewing, a pop-up appears on the screen to inform that a stop is requested in the design. Slide off the hoop without removing the fabric from the hoop. Trim away the fabric from the inside of the cutwork straight stitch outline with a pair of small scissors. Slide the hoop onto the embroidery arm again and touch Start Stop. Designer 2 finishes the cutwork design with the satin stitch around the cutwork. Remove the basting with a seam ripper. Your Husqvarna Viking Designer 2 features a variety of embroidery options for applique. Touch Design 13, the little bunny. Embroider the feet and shoes, changing thread colors as prompted. Place an applique fabric on top for the dress. Touch Start Stop. A straight stitch outline around the applique section of the design is stitched. When the machine stops, slide the hoop off, but do not remove the fabric from the hoop. Trim the applique fabric from outside the straight stitch outline. Slide the hoop onto the embroidery unit and touch Start Stop to finish the embroidery. Push the button on the right side of your Designer 2 to change the embroidery D card. To program Embroidery Letters, insert the Clarendon Embroidery D card 102 into the slot. There are 3 different font sizes, 12 mm, 20 mm, and 30 mm. The selected size is visible on the screen. Touch Size to select the font size 20 mm to embroider the letters in the 20 mm size. Touch Func on the screen until the Prog mode is activated. To program the word Café, touch C. The capital letter C appears on the screen in the programming area. The cursor line moves to the right, ready for the next letter to be entered. Touch Menu. The lowercase menu, lower left on the embroidery D card, is activated. Program the letters A and F. Touch Menu again to activate the third menu, lower right, with the special signs. Touch E. The programmed sequence is automatically saved in memory E1. There are 5 memories. The last used memory is active. Café is saved in E1. You can step between the memories by touching the plus and minus buttons. Touch Func to activate the rep mode. Adjust the placement of the word Café with the positioning arrows on the embroidery D card. Touch Start Stop and sew the word Café. Touch Func to activate the prog mode. Step forward to memory E2. Touch Menu. Program the word cream. Touch C. Touch Menu. Touch R. Touch Menu. Touch E. Touch Menu twice and program the letters M and E. If you need to correct spelling, use the Delete button. It erases your programmed letters backwards, step by step. Touch Func to activate the rep mode. Adjust the placement of the word cream with the positioning arrows on the embroidery D card. Check size and placement with the Check Size button on the screen to sew the word cream underneath Café. Touch Start Stop to begin sewing. After you finish embroidering, touch the needle Stop Up-Down button. The embroidery arm moves to the rest position. Turn off the machine. Raise the button at the right front of the embroidery unit and slide the unit to the left to release it. Close the cover of the socket on your Designer 2. Take care of your Designer 2 embroidery unit by keeping it in the carrying case.